I think it was the best investment of my life. In today's age, there is so much information, too much noise. There were a lot of things that I had to do manually that I didn't have to, like they could be automated with the software. You really need to plan your days correctly. And I use it every day. Hello everyone, in today's video I would like to talk about why using a calendar changed my life. Why using a calendar properly changed my life. I realized something very simple that most of us deep down know, but we avoid thinking about it because it's uncomfortable, and that our time here is extremely limited, and that is the most important currency we all have. However, most of us end up wasting it because we don't plan correctly. And once you start using a calendar properly, you have to look at your time. It becomes visible and you have to consciously think about it. So it's no longer just a theory, it becomes a reality, and your obligations and commitments become visible. And as well as all of the lies that you tell yourself about how productive you are and where your time is really going. So why calendars work? There are a couple of things why calendar is very important. First of all, it makes your time visible and explicit. This allows you to also plan. So you can see what you're going to do, you can plan around it, and it removes ambiguity. Instead of saying, I will work on something someday, I will work on it. Instead, you use a calendar and say, I will work on it from 2 to 6 p.m. on Monday. And suddenly, this is a commitment you're making and it's explicit. So if you don't ignore your calendar and actually look into it, you will see that, okay, I said I'm going to do this, because what someday means is never, unfortunately, and this means I'm going to do it. So there is a commitment involved. So once this is visible, it removes distractions for you. And this is something that we all kind of already know, and most of us maybe even do. But let's go a step further here, because what I mean by properly using calendar is this framework called Agile. And for those of you familiar with software development, you know what Agile is. And I'm referring to a very simplified version here that can be applied to anything in life really, but I'm applying it to my productivity, goal setting, and time management. So it's you plan, you execute, and then you reflect. So let's talk about how this works in the calendar example here that I was talking about. And so this works in cycles. So you plan, you execute, you reflect, and you start planning again. So how does this look in a calendar? The way I do it is I plan 1 week ahead each week. I call it my weekly sprints. So for me on Sunday, I sit down and plan my entire week up front. So from Monday to the next Sunday, I will, first of all, before I do this, I will think about like what are my goals for this week, what I want to achieve, what I need to focus on, how much time I'm going to invest, and based on that, I just fill in the schedules for that day. And actually, before I even do that, I do a reflection. And what does this mean is that I look into the previous week, which I have already planned the next week, the week before. So the Sunday, today is Sunday and I'm reflecting, so I'm looking whether I have fulfilled the plan I did the Sunday before. And I'll get to that more in a minute. So I plan it, and then I just go through my week and I execute it. So execution means I do it. So I follow what I said I would do. And this is the hardest part. This is actually the only problem here, to execute what you set out to do. This is actually the great filter that differentiates between people that actually get something done and those that don't, because planning is actually quite easy and you can just mentally masturbate with your plans, but if you don't execute on them, you don't get anything done. So the execution part here is very important, and there are actually two things I would like to talk about for execution. So the first thing, and this is in the perfect world, execution means you do exactly what you said you would. So what you plan, you do. So what was the plan? You did exactly. So when you said you will work from 2 to 6 p.m. on Monday, you will work on it. And you will actually look at the time and you will track it. So it's tracking. And this is the second point, is that if you don't do this, so you know you're looking at the time clock and it's 2 p.m. and you're not working, you track and you actually record what you have done instead, so that your calendar doesn't lie. This is the important part, because if your calendar is lying, then it's useless. Like, it's pointless to have a calendar that is lying to you. So what you need to get into a habit of doing is you plan, and execution means trying to follow the plan as best as you can, but sometimes it's impossible and nobody is absolutely perfect. You are striving to as close to perfection as possible. So when you do what you set out, great, you track it. So I did it, you check it off. If not, you replace it. So actually I didn't do this. Instead, I was reading for 2 hours and then I just slept on the floor instead of working. So then once you are at the next week and you are asking yourself, why didn't I actually achieve anything I said I would? You can look at the calendar, and because you need the truth, like that's the only way you're going to grow and improve is that if you have the true data. So your calendar is your data. And now let's go to the reflection part. So once you do this and your calendar is telling the truth, again, this is the important thing, it's telling the truth, you can go and reflect. And now you are going to look at, so okay, I have planned something and I actually follow my calendar like 50%, which is actually quite good. I would say you are doing very good here. But again, you're going to ask yourself, how do I improve? Because that's the whole point of it here, continuous improvement. Here you are doing reflection so that the next planning is going to be better. So you are trying to plan better. So more realistic planning, and also that you better follow the plan. These are the two core things you need to learn, two core skills. So better planning and better following of the plan. How I would make you think about this is that the person who is doing the planning, you, on Sunday, in my case, so your boss sets out the plan for the entire week for you, and now you are in the execution state, you are following it, and you are tracking if you are following it, so execution is follow and track. And basically the you in this stage, so throughout the whole week, is the employee here. So you are your own employee. Now we're getting to the habit of following the calendar. So make the calendar your boss, making the source of truth for you, because you need to rely on something. So this is your source of truth data that you can rely on, and this is basically your foundation on which you are going to build on top of. And then in the reflection part, you are basically a strategist, advisor, and you're just trying to improve. What can I do better? And as we already talked about. So this is a good framework to take into consideration. And so the very important part here is discipline of actually tracking and committing. So that's commitment and honesty. Again, because this only works if your calendar is actually your source of truth. If it's not, this is pointless actually. And so why this is important is because why most people fail is because they are not really living in reality, but your calendar needs to be a reality. So if you commit into this and your calendar actually really becomes your source of truth and reality, it becomes your mirror, and it exposes all of the ugly truths you are telling yourself, how productive you really are, because most people say that they are working 6 hours a day. If you actually use the calendar and track it, you would realize they were working for 30 minutes actually, because they were constantly distracted. So what this means is you are tracking everything. So if you say you are working, that means that if you have to get out of your chair to go to the toilet or to take out your phone and respond to someone, you are not working. So you have to track that. Pauses have to be tracked. Like that's not working. It has to be fully transparent and honest. Otherwise it won't work. So this really exposes all of your lies and makes you see like where your time is really going, so that you can think about it, reflect upon it, and improve. That really is the goal. Again, this only works if you take it seriously. So you have to make a commitment and take this seriously. And you don't have to take it like absolutely, you don't have to track everything for the rest of your life. This is an experiment, this is a realization, and you need data. So this is basically, I would say, for a week or two of, if you can actually commit into this for a week or two, you're going to expose all of the lies and you are going to see where you're really spending your time, and it's going to help you improve. So if you are happy with your productivity, you don't need to do this. If your life is slipping through your fingers, your time is slipping through your fingers and you are not getting anything done and you are feeling the pressure, you need to slow the down and track your time and expose the lies, because this is your foundation. And once you are happy with your foundation, you can do much less. You can track it just generally high level and just scale it downwards. But at the start, you need a lot of detail. You need to trim down the fat and then invest less, as with everything. And you will improve. This is a skill as well. You are going to over time improve. You will need less time. You will follow everything better. You will create a system around this like I have, and you will realize the benefits. So the last thing I want to talk about is my basically evolution of how I started using Calendar and all the applications that I use. So I started with Google Calendar and it was fine for a few weeks. And at the time I was using Notion. So I switched to Notion Calendar, which was a bit better because it was actually integrated to my Notion tasks and files. And then I stopped using Notion and went to Obsidian. And in Obsidian, I used the community plugins for Calendar for a few weeks. And I still, actually throughout this whole journey here, and here, I still felt like something was missing because there were a lot of things that I had to do manually that I didn't have to, like they could be automated with the software, and I was missing a lot of features that I really wanted in terms of visualization and working with the calendar. I wanted a real foundation, rock solid foundation that I can build my entire life upon, and from that moment just seriously commit to planning. So I need the software that matches that commitment and level of desire. So what happened is I built my own Obsidian plugin called Prisma Calendar. The way I have built this is using the Agile methodology of trial and error that I talked about. So basically I just created a plugin it was just an empty calendar, which is something similar to what was currently in the Obsidian system. And over time, as I was doing my weekly sprints of planning, I was looking, and just as I was using the calendar throughout my whole life, like throughout my days, and I caught myself doing something manually that I didn't have to, or I felt like some feature was missing, I just coded it. And this is absolutely amazing feeling and like opportunity that Obsidian is so flexible that you can code things that you feel are missing. So like whenever I was doing something and I was like, okay, I want to do this, but I cannot so easily, I literally just stopped and coded it, or I added it to my Obsidian to prioritize and add to the development later. So after a lot of iterations, I would say at least 4 months of iteration, the Prisma Calendar was fully built, and it's at the stage it is now, where I kind of ran out of ideas of what to add next. There are still, you can always improve. Some features I plan on adding still, but for the most part, like there is literally everything you can think of in this calendar, and I'm very happy and proud of the result. So what I would suggest to you is, first of all, obviously start using calendar, because in today's age, there is so much information, too much noise, and you really need to plan your days correctly and just track everything. So that's level 1. Then level 2 is to actually make the commitment to start using your calendar seriously. You don't just write 3 things. Okay, I have a deadline for this exam on Thursday. That's not using calendar. That's like level 0. Okay, you need to plan out your entire life, entire days for the weeks. If you do weekly sprints like me for the entire week, that's level 2. Level 3 is actually committing and executing on that plan. And if you are failing to do that, you track it at least. You track it and record it so that your calendar is telling the truth. That's level 3. And level 4 is putting it all together to do the Agile methodology of planning, execution, and reflection. So you're actually reflecting and you are improving over time. Your time management is getting better and better. You notice that after a month, you were productive 60 hours instead of 20, and you will see it in your output that actually you can see in your results that you are getting 3 times as much results. And there is a separate, also completely separate video about like 60 hours of quality time compared to 20 hours. Like, it doesn't actually immediately means that if you spend 60 hours, you are doing more work, because you have to do deep work with focus, but that's a completely separate video, and it's better to spend more time than less. And then I would use a tool. Obviously, if you want to use Google Calendar, Notion Calendar, or any other calendar, go for it. But I would encourage you to give Prisma Calendar a try, because I can personally vouch for it, and I use it every day. And I think it was the best investment of my life, because I plan on using this thing for the rest of my life. So that's why I spent so many months of work on this, and why I kept continuously improving it, because I'm taking this super seriously, and really I'm in this for the long game, and I want to benefit from this forever. If you see any potential improvements for this plugin, if you see any bugs or features missing, just tell me and I will work on it whenever I have time and fix this, because I seriously want to make this the best Obsidian plugin, calendar plugin. Actually, not just in Obsidian, like I want to make this the absolutely no-brainer go-to calendar application on the planet Earth, because I think this is super important, and I plan to take it to the next level. If it's not already there, we will see. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.